Hello. How are you guys? Happy Saturday. I'll just give a second for people to come in if anybody decides to join me today. I think I'm going to be by myself today. I haven't heard from Katie, so I'm just going to wing it. Anyway, if you read the book, if you're here and you've read the book, The Return of the King by J.R.R. Tolkien, please let me know in the comments what you rated it. While we wait for people to come, I feel like the best way to go about the book club from here forward is to not do full series and just stick with either standalones or the first book in a series. Because if you miss 1 month, you know what I mean? So, or if you want to join, but we're in the middle of a series, you can't, So, also, for the month of June, we are reading People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry, like a little break before we dive into another, either a classic or a fantasy book, because let's rewind a little bit. January, we read The Princess Bride. February, we read Pride and Prejudice. And then March, April, and May was the Lord of the Rings series. So I feel like all of those books were, either a classic or, Lord of the Rings is, I would say, a modern classic. So, and it's fantasy, so it's a little bit more dense to get into. So yeah, I see Carly rated it 3.5 stars, which is crazy. I would say probably a 4.5, but as a whole, I feel like this is a 5-star series for myself. And I think for me personally, when I first started this series, a lot of people were like, because I did cry in like book number 1, and they were like, oh, well, then you need to prep yourself because book number 3 is going to be harder and blah, blah, blah. And so going into book number 3, I was prepping for the absolute worst. I was prepping for everybody to die, And I did tear up. There was a scene that I teared up at. Not like I didn't, like you get that burning sensation when you're about to cry. That sounds so silly, but like I could feel the tears wanting to come, but I didn't fully cry. You know what I mean? And I feel like because I had this expectation of like being absolutely heartbroken, and I actually really enjoyed the way I didn't like enjoy, but I feel like it was the best way to end the book, if that makes sense. So that might have been I don't know. I was expecting a completely different ending. I was expecting like the war to end completely different, and it didn't. It actually ended technically better than what I was expecting. I don't know, but on Goodreads I did give it a 5 stars, and it is a 5-star series for me. I really enjoy the series. I do think that I want to do a reread because I read the first book, and like a lot of bits I was kind of confused because one, I had never seen the movies before, and I didn't really know this world and whatnot, and some of like I had trouble keeping characters. Even reading book 3, there were some characters, like there was 2 characters that I kept mixing up their names because their names were very similar. But I feel like now that I've read the books and I've watched the movies, I want to go back and reread them. And I'm sure even if it's like your 5th or 6th or 7th or 11th time rereading it, you'll probably still like catch on to new stuff and whatnot. 5 stars, bawled my eyes out. I struggled with pacing. I love book 1, but book 2 and book 3's scenes were structured really weird to me compared to the films. Okay. Probably my fault for watching the movies first. And it still holds up. I do think I agree that like, because you know how like in book 3, you're following mostly Pippin and then Merry and whatever, but then like it takes forever to finally get back to Frodo. I don't know. And I was like, isn't he supposed to be like the supposed to be like the main character? But I mean, I get it. But then also I sat back and I think like this wasn't this published in like 1955, and it even like amazes me still to like how much it holds up to this day, you know, and how it's not like, you know, writing a fantasy right now, you have so much other works that you could read to get inspiration from, and that kind of like set the lay of the land and whatever. He had nothing. This was just all he was the first part, he was it, you know, and it just amazes me. I don't know. And so then I'm like idolizing this old man. Aragorn returning as King of Gondor. That too, yeah. And I feel like also, should I wait and ask this question later? Technically, we are not in spoilers technically, but I did like Google after I was done with the book. I was Googling like, because I know he has so many other books that you can read to like read up on these characters of like what happens after and whatnot. And I did read on Aragorn and like how he has kids and whatnot and his death and whatever. I don't know if I like spoiled myself because I do plan on reading more books in this series, in this world rather. And then also because people were telling me like before diving into this book, oh, this person dies at this point, and then you read the book and I'm like, did I miss it? And whatever, and it's not in the book. I actually had to like Google. But it's really interesting though that you can Google to figure out what happens later on after the Return of the King ends, because the answers are found in his other works. I need to let my dog in. Ugh. I feel very hungry. Oh, my dog is in. Why are you crying? I thought you was outside. I'm having to like track my blood sugar. It's such a weird situation, and I'm like, I can't eat how I used to eat, and so my body feels like I'm starving to death when I'm not. I just ate. It's rough. The appendix is okay. I didn't read that. I just read to like the last bit of the book, and then that was it. Anyway, there was a lot of stuff, I don't know. I feel like book 3, I'm trying to think back. I really wish I wouldn't have read these so far apart. And then it took me like a month to read book 3. I read it like I would read like a chapter or two and then not read it for a couple of weeks and then read a little bit more and then not read it and then had to finish it up. And I finished it early Friday before the movie this time. I was trying to think back I wish I could find my notes for book 2. But I think okay, let's rank them. Which books, which are your favorites? Like favorite to least favorite. Okay, so the full story of Aragorn and Arwen, I Googled that, but I guess I didn't realize that it was in the appendix. But I mean, and that's how I found out like they had kids together. It's confirmed a boy and they think 2 other girls or something like that, and how they die and whatnot. I guess I should, you know, in my reread, I'll do it. I don't know. But okay. Let me sit back and think. I really liked book 1. I liked book 1 because I liked being in the Shire, but you're not in the Shire for a long time, but I liked like the adventure part of that. Like when they're doing the birthday and then leaving the Shire and like the dark figures or whatever they're called, and that like I like that. And I also really liked The Hobbit, and I think because that part of The Lord of the Rings is very similar to The Hobbit, I don't know, I really like that part. And then I feel like the pacing of all of them is kind of off. they're all like, imagine if this was, because this was initially written as one book. Imagine reading it as one book with this, how long it is. I'll also say that people are always like, oh, I tried reading The Lord of the Rings, but it's just, they're just walking. They're just walking. They're just walking. But I feel like it wasn't like that boring for me. I didn't find it boring at all, honestly. Okay. I want to say book 2 is my least favorite. And I liked book 3. I liked the second half of book 3 better than the first half of book 3, but going into book 3, I was still like in a reading slump. So that could be the reason why. I don't know. What are your thoughts? Anybody? Also, yeah, I have kind of semi notes. I did like start writing stuff down because as I was reading it, it's the characters' names. I was like, let me Google and see, or like next time I read this as a reread, I'm going to make flashcards of the picture of the character with their names so that so that it's easier for me to keep them, you know. Book 1, book 3, book 2, and then The Hobbit. Okay, wait, so book 1 is your least favorite or book 1 is your favorite? But The Hobbit is your ultimate. I really love The Hobbit. And I love The Hobbit because it gave like an adventure without being so sad, you know, and it was also paced a lot better, I think. But I really like The Lord of the Rings because I feel like when you read The Hobbit, you're kind of like a bystander in a sense, which I understand because it was written for a child. So like when you're reading The Hobbit, there's all this stuff going on, but you're never in the middle of it. You're never, you know, you're not fighting in the war or whatever the main characters, you know, aren't. Versus this, you have everything. That's my ranking as well. The Hobbit will always be my favorite, then book 1, book 3, and book 2. Okay, book 1 is your favorite after The Hobbit. Okay. So I feel like book 2 is common for it to not. I feel like book 2 is my least favorite as well, simply because I feel like more stuff happened in book 1 and book 3. And also, I didn't really care for, I done forgot the names of the tree guy. I didn't really care for the scenes with Merry and Pippin and all of that in that book. Like, I would prefer to read about Tom in book 1. Tom was book 1, right? Than to read about the tree characters in book 2. I lost my old notebook. I don't know what happened to it. It's not like my house is dirty to like lose it. So I don't know. It's like I'm constantly in here rearranging stuff and I forget where I put it. You know what I'm saying? I don't care. Treebeard. There you go. I don't either. I would prefer Tom over Treebeard. I actually have a book about Tom. A publisher sent it to me a few years ago and I put it on my shelf. This was before I even bought Lord of the Rings. And I kept it. And I'm glad I did because now I can read it. Yeah, so anyway, let's go ahead and dive into spoilers really quick. I want to know, because after I finished the book, I was thinking about this. I want to know if you think Frodo truly accomplished his mission. And what are your thoughts? Because for me personally, I feel like Tolkien wrote it to where the mission ultimately wouldn't be able to be done because of the ring's influence in the end. Ooh, I agree about the Two Towers. Has a lot of struggle and harshness and sadness at the beginning. And then also, like last night we did the movie watch and I accidentally watched the wrong version of it. And I feel like either I don't know if the extended version missed a lot of stuff, but I feel like the version that I watched missed a lot of stuff. What was his name? Sharky. I don't watching the movie, had I not read the book, I don't think it mentions Sharky and that whole situation with him like taking over the Shire and whatnot at all. I could have missed it, but I don't recall it being in the movie at all. I thought that was interesting. And what else? There was something else that I felt was kind of big in the book and it wasn't in the movie at all. Kind of how like Tom wasn't in the movie at all, which is weird from book one. Frodo did a damn good job, but he would have failed for sure without Sam. He would have failed for sure without Sam. He would have failed for sure without Gollum as well, in the sense that Gollum bit his finger off, and had Gollum not bitten his finger off and then fallen into the crack himself, I don't think the ring would have wound up in the crack. Yeah, what is it called? Look, I have such brain fog with words and like names. Possession took over. Anyway, I'm glad it's over with because what a journey over a freaking ring. And then people were like, "Oh, it could have solved this whole thing could have been solved if the Eagles would have just taken the ring and dropped it in the crack for them." I don't know. I don't know. I read that somewhere when I was reading book one, when I was like trying to like TikTok stuff and whatever. Yeah, I don't think it would have ended had Gollum not been there. And I don't think Frodo would have gotten there without Sam, obviously, because the part that I did cry at was when he's like paralyzed or whatever and they thought he was dead. And I thought he was dead. And I was like, are you fucking kidding me right now? I was like, ain't no way that the main character, which I mean, technically, because I was like, well, technically he's not a main character, but ain't no way he would kill off a main character after all this time. But he didn't, thankfully. But it's also very sad how like this, because technically he was like in his 50s. And a hobbit, if I remember correctly, can live to like what, 130-ish? Let me Google. Hobbits live long. How long can a hobbit live? Okay, hobbits typically live to be about 100 years old on average, but with many living well into their 90s or slightly beyond. I could have sworn in the book it said hobbits can live till about 130. Oh, Bilbo lived to be 131, but his extreme old age was unnaturally prolonged by the ring. Okay, so they're kind of like humans, I guess. So if a hobbit can live to 100 years old, but then that's not fair because technically they don't become adults. They don't become mature adults until like what, their 30th birthday, 33rd birthday. So like I would not just now because I'm a little older than 33, but that's crazy to think. Anyway, I don't know where I was going with this. Oh, it's kind of sad because like Frodo, he was only like 50. Hang on, let me YouTube again. He was like 50 something, right? How old was Frodo when he tossed? Oh, he didn't toss the ring, I guess. I'll put in the Lord of the Rings. 50. And then they get back to the Shire and 4 years pass and then he leaves again. So he's 54. But it kind of felt like he was giving up on life, and it's just kind of sad, Yeah, it's very like sad. He leaves and then Bilbo leaves and Gandalf. And it makes me wonder if like, well, there's all these other books. I guess I can't really wonder until after I read all those other books. is like if he has any other stories in there about their time wherever they went. I don't know, but it was sad. It kind of gave Frodo depression. It kind of like ruined his life. Like his life was just getting started, and then he ruined his. It kind of ruined his life for him. I don't know. Hi, Kelsey. Oh, it's so sad. And he wanted to keep the ring, and I feel like Sam also was getting that like urge to, because he like I don't know, he didn't want to give it to Frodo. That damn ring. Anyway, so that was interesting to read about. I am very like, I was, oh, this, the lady made cookies. Sorry, I'm just, look, let's talk about personal life for a second. I'm having to like really watch what I eat. And so like when you go from eating, when I tell you I was eating all day, like I'm a grazer. And so now I can't. I woke up this morning. I don't know if y'all know anything about glucose levels or your blood sugar levels or whatever, because I sure the fuck don't. I'm like learning this by myself because anyway, my fasting glucose level was 163, which is high for a fasting number. And so I have to get it to where it's in a normal range. And you do that by eating better, not having like 2 boudin kolaches and donut holes for breakfast. Anyway, all of that to say is I feel very like very like lightheaded and like not myself because my body, and when I told my doctor this, I said anytime I try to like eat better, I feel off. I feel not myself. I feel lightheaded. I get headaches. I feel like get dizzy and whatever. And he said, as long as I'm eating enough, it's because my body has to get used to not having so much. So sorry if I feel, if I, I'm hoping that this actually fixes my brain fog because I hear that it does. Like if you get your shit together. Oh yeah, that too. Okay. This is where I was kind of confused, and I could have went back and reread, but I didn't because I was on a time crunch. So, what was her name? The girl who was the king's, I don't know, there's so many damn kings. The king's niece, Eowyn. Anyway, like when she disguises herself as the guy so that her and Temeri can go fight in the war. And then she kills, was it the leader of the, what is that word? Where'd it go? Nazgul. Was that guy the leader of Nazgul, the one that she stabbed? She said, I am no man, and she stabs him. I was hoping, I was Delulu. I was hoping after she killed that man, then there's the war, but no. So he was the leader of those people. Okay, good. Done by a woman. Let's see it. So, he's still never healed completely. Oh, read that already. I loved her character, and I love the fact that she got to be with the other. Is he a king? I don't know. The other king's youngest son. Boromir, is it Boromir? The one that died in book 2. See, this is why I gotta reread because I gotta get better. So Boromir was the one that died in book 2, correct? And Faramir is his brother, and their dad is the one that jumped in himself. Anyway, I got to get better with all of these. I have like this name cheat sheet I found, but this only covers names from book 1. I should have Googled to see if I can find one of all of the important characters from this entire trilogy. The thing is like, nothing against like weird names, because I understand that Tolkien loved language and creating words and stuff. Like that was his passion. So of course, knowing that, he's not going to use Sarah, Rebecca, Fred. I think the only one is that's semi-normal is Samwise. But is Samwise, like I know Sam is a normal name, but is Samwise, you know? Anyway, what Carly said. He was the son of a steward of Gondor. Wasn't a king. Oh, well, hang on. I think Oh, okay. I don't know what a steward is. A steward. Let me Google. See, I need a whole ass character, you know? The thing is like, I've read fantasy, obviously, but I haven't really fully dove into like really high fantasy type stuff, or even stuff as simple as like Bridgerton, you know, where they have the terms, probably a steward, I don't know, but they have like Duke and Duchess, and I don't know any of that kind of stuff, right? Because I live in America. We don't have those here, and I live in 2026. I don't live in 1802. So I just haven't really, I've read a few, let me think. I've read 3 Tessa Dare books, which are like, what is the word? Historical romance. And then I read books like the Red Queen series, but anyway, there's just a whole bunch of like, I don't know what a steward, hang on, I'm going to Google it. What is a steward? A person responsible for managing, protecting, or administering something that belongs to someone else. The term generally refers to a caretaker. Okay. A caretaker or service provider, and is used across several different industries and contexts. Interesting. So he's just like like the hotel manager for The Shining, the steward. Standing in until the king returned. That makes a lot more sense. Okay. A babysitter of the throne. Okay, that makes more sense. Good to know. See, we should have buddy read this out loud and took turns reading paragraphs like we did in the 3rd grade. So let me see, where did I write him down at? So kind of like a babysitter of the throne. And I'm gonna have to find my other notebook that has my other notes and have my notes beside me when I do my reread, because I really want to reread it now. Like, you know, like when you kind of like when you're writing a paper and you do your proofread and then you go back and then you could reread it again with a different lens because you know more now. Anyway, so yeah, let's see. I did look up things like discussions that, like, just talking points, I guess, for the trilogy to get other people, like, because I'm by myself and I'm nervous. So like, let's see. One of them says, what is Tolkien saying about power? The destruction of the ring doesn't result in anyone gaining power. It results in power being relinquished. Why is the quest successful? Only because the ring is destroyed rather than used. I don't know. I feel like I'm trying to think if there would be a way to use the ring. I don't know. I would have to reread and take better notes, because like I feel like the ring itself winds up turning the characters evil in a way, because you see Smeagol turns into Gollum, and then when Bilbo had the ring, eventually he started like tripping out. And then I feel like it, so I don't know if they could essentially, what would that have to do? Defeat Mordor with the ring that was created by someone over there, Mordor. Anyway, and then it says, is Tolkien arguing that the desire for power is inherently corrupting? I think so. Well, I don't know. What do you think? Okay, let's see. It seems the ring knows how to use people's intentions against them, no matter how good the intentions are. Remember, Tolkien fought in World War I, so a lot of his writings were influenced by that. And that last night while we were watching the movie, it's what I kept thinking of. And I know like the movie was a little bit not like different, but it was different. But I felt like as I was watching the movie, it like that part stood out to me more because you were like visually watching them die and stuff, especially when those like Oliphant things came. I was like, these people are so dumb because they know that there's a big chance that they're fixing to die going up against these big things, but they did it anyway because they did it for Frodo to be able to accomplish this quest. And that's essentially what he had to do in World War II, is probably go up against people that he didn't want to, and then watch people like next to him just fall and die. And then you just have to keep going. You can't like stop and cry because your friend's dead. And my grandpa fought in World War II. Woo! This year would have been his 100. I think it had to been World War II. This year would have been his 100 birthday, but he passed away in his 70s from cancer. And I never even knew he was in a world war until his funeral, because he never talked about it. And I just couldn't imagine. I would be the one over there on the side crying the whole fucking time. I'd be dead, actually. They'd probably kill me because I don't think I'd be able to kill somebody else. Honestly. I mean, I know why. I don't know. That's a hard topic to think about. Like, can we just not war? How about that? Can we just not war? We can all go to the buffet or something instead. Tolkien wasn't a fan of the movie. Tolkien. I don't know. It's interesting. And I was also thinking about like, I think I mentioned it in the Discord, I wish actual Tolkien was here to be able to witness the movies. They kind of gave, like, they were made in the early 2000s, correct? Or at least the third one was. And when was The Princess Bride movie made? My stomach hurts. I want a new medicine also. I'm not on like Ozempic or anything because I'm not paying $990 a month for that. So my doctor called me back and he put me on something that helps with insulin resistance. What is it called? It's a pill that you take. It's not a weight loss thing, but it is tearing my stomach up. The Princess Bride movie, metformin. That's it. So I might have to go to the bathroom. What did I Google? The Princess Bride movie was made when? 87. So when I was watching the movie last night, I felt like it aged. Like the music choices that were for this movie made it feel kind of cartoonish. And so like when we were watching The Princess Bride, the book and the movie, like it's kind of poking fun at fantasy and at romance and whatever. But I felt like how like the fighting scenes in The Princess Bride were very similar because the movie just kind of like, the music, to those fighting scenes just made it feel silly in I don't know. Yeah, I felt like the music choices were way off. Yeah, it's metformin is what he put me on because And then I was Googling that. That's a whole, I don't even know what the hell. It's like you go to the doctor, they tell you this. He says, just if you want to know how to eat, follow this diet. Here's your medication. It's probably going to give you a tummy ache for the first week that you're on it. And then he told me to get a glucose meter. And to like, so that way if I, and then I have to Google everything. I didn't even know, like, when do you test your glucose? Nobody told me. Like, I don't know. And I get it. They can't sit in there with you and hold your hand and talk you through everything. But, like, it's tough. See, my stomach is messed up as well. The pharmacist said in about a week, it'll balance itself out. So we'll see. We'll see. When I tell y'all, my toes and my feet hurt so bad that I have to fix this, because there are some nights where I just can't even go to sleep because my feet hurt so bad. And it's from my blood sugar being so high that it's messing up my feet. And no telling what else. That stuff can mess up your pancreas. It can mess up so much stuff, and it's terrifying. Anyway, sorry. It's just been heavy on my noggin, you know? That's all I've been thinking about lately, and that's all I've been doing. And then we were like, sorry, we're going to get back on topic in just a second. My husband, so this morning I tested my blood sugar, and it was like 165 or something like that, like my fasting blood sugar. And then I ate breakfast, and then I tested it 2 hours later, and it was at 150, I think. I think it was 150. And my husband tested his just to see, because he's not diabetic. Because I was like, and he didn't even, and I ate a healthy breakfast. He did not. My blood sugar was 150. His was 81. And I was like, you just had a sugary coffee beverage. And then he had like, they're called like Nutri-Grain crisps. They're like I don't know. Anyway, and I was like, and you're like, it's not fair. And I had freaking turkey meatballs, cottage cheese, and blueberries. And my blood sugar was high still. Well, it was like high. I don't know. Anyway. So yeah. That's it. I don't know what else to talk about. Y'all want to talk about anything? I also was watching the movie last night, and I was like, I know if this movie was filmed in 2026, that they would have chosen, like, how different it is if you look at movies that were made back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and compare them to movies made today. And you can tell that movies made today are very much more so for the aesthetic of the human being versus like the actor. You know what I'm saying? Like, they would have definitely, because I was like, why are most of these characters in here? What is his name? Gimli. I was like, I don't know. Like, anytime he was like talking, I wanted to throw up because of his mustache hair. And I feel like in 2026 though, I don't think it could be made the same, because I feel like they would worry too about who has abs, and is Henry Cavill going to be this person? You know what I mean? And not, I don't know. That was just the thoughts going through my head as I was watching the movie last night. I was like, this. And then also, I'm just so upset that I didn't watch the right movie. So like I'm assuming in the extended version, they did have, well, how do you pronounce his name? Saruman, the other wizard. And then he went to Sharky and whatever, and then did all of that mess. Do they show that in the extended version? I was curious. And all of that mess. Because I don't recall it being in the regular version. And I feel like if you were watching these movies back to back to back, but only the regular version, you would probably be confused as to what happened to him, because I feel like they don't show what happened to him. He's just not there anymore. Unless I missed it. Because my kids do be coming in and out, in and out, in and out. And there is a chance I could have missed it. But anyway, you guys, it's only 5:39. And I've run out of things to talk about. Because Katie's not here to yap with me about stuff. It's very different. Okay, I'm going to have to watch the extended edition. Because I thought that was very strange. Because like I feel like his character was such a big character for them just to kind of brush over it, you know. I'm really glad though. Like when I read book one, I didn't finish the book before we watched the movie, and the scene that I was at in the book was the bridge scene. Was it called a bridge? The scene, you know what scene I'm talking about. Okay. So like going into the movie, I didn't like it didn't I didn't realize that Gandalf was, and so because I hadn't like fully finished that scene in the book yet, because I was procrastinating. And then I was so upset. But actually I cried more at old dude's death than I did Gandalf's death. But then people were like, "Oh no, he's coming back. He's coming back. Don't worry, he's coming back. But he's going to be different." And so then I was like expecting it in my head. So when I was reading book 2 before we even got to the book 2's movie, I was picturing a spirit. So I was picturing like, oh, he's just there like in spirit. I wasn't picturing him like there in actual like form. But I'm glad we didn't have to. Anyway. So yeah. Have any of y'all read the Emily Henry book that we're reading for June? I'm probably going to reading vlog it. Now, okay, so I read, let me see when I did. I have read the book. And it was right at the time when I was just getting into audiobooks. And so this was before, so I didn't start listening to audiobooks until, I want to say it was like 2021. And this was before I realized that I don't like listening to, your mom is a big fan of you. Well, thank you. Say hi to your mom. This was at a time where I didn't know that I wasn't a fan of listening to romance books on audio. And the narrator, she's not a bad narrator. She's actually a very popular narrator. I just don't like the way she voices males' voices. Like, because in People We Meet on Vacation, the guy is like a gym guy, a gym bro. He watches what he eats, he exercises, has muscles. But the way that, and I'm not saying that gym bros have nice voices, but like, it's fiction and that's what you want them to, But he sounds like he would be a star in The Big Bang Theory, the way that she made his voice sound. But I also listen to Beach Read, and it's the same audiobook narrator. And so when I listened to Beach Read, I was just picturing the characters from People We Meet on Vacation. And I don't know, that's why. And then I haven't listened to any more Emily Henry books via audio, but I believe it's the same narrator for every single one, which it wouldn't bother me if it was like a series. I actually prefer that, but they're all different books. And so like one day, if you get this wild hair and you want to listen to all of her books in a row, I feel like it would be very confusing because it's the same narrator. But they might say that out loud, and I'm the same narrator. So when I read it with my eyeballs, it's me. But it's different when you read it. I don't know. Shut up, Beth. Okay, hang on. Carly didn't like it. Well, Carly, you can roast it along with us. Those are fun. Like back in the olden days when we read shitty books and we roasted it the whole time we watched the movie, So I read this. Or you don't have to reread it, but you can still watch. I think we watched it together already, but we can rewatch it. I actually liked the adaptation. It says 4 years ago. When is the date? Oh, 20. Okay, I read this in 2021, June of 2021, and I gave it a 4-star. Let's see what my review says fully. This is my review. It says, definitely a perfect summer read. Friends to lovers with so much angst. And see, before we watched the adaptation a few months ago, I couldn't tell you a singular thing about this book. I couldn't remember nothing, not a character's name, nothing. And then I said it took a little bit for me to actually be sucked in, but the second half of the book was worth it. I do, however, wish there wasn't so many fade to blacks. Bitch, have I changed, okay? And now I don't care for there to be any kind of nastiness in the book, but it's going to be fine. Okay, so with Emily Henry, her books are more so literary fiction, would you say? Women's fiction, literary fiction, than they are romance. There's romance in there, but it's not, I wouldn't classify her books as like full-blown romance. And not all of her books are fantastic. I liked Funny Story, but I didn't really like Funny Story for the romance part. Even though the romance part didn't, like, because I love New Girl, and you can definitely tell that she got her inspiration from New Girl with this Nick and Jess wannabe couple. But the friendship between the main girl and the girlfriend that she makes along the way, I think her name was Ashley, like they become friends. I liked their whole thing more than I actually liked the romance bit of it. And then my least favorite, well, I can't fully say with my full chest because I don't remember anything about Beach Read. And I've read Beach Read. Don't remember anything about it. But Great Big Beautiful Life is my least favorite by her. Yeah, the band. Yeah, I feel like her books feel like you're watching a movie. Because, like, you watch a romance movie, and it's not going to be banging every other scene like these romance books are nowadays. The only other Emily Henry book I've read is The Love That Split the World. Is that a YA book? Because I have not heard of that one, or have I read it? People Meet on Vacation will be a reread for me too. You preferred the movie. We watched the movie. I have another Discord group. It started out where we were going to be reading all of the Stephen King books, and so we joined and now it's just turned into a group chat, essentially. And one day we were like, oh, The People Meet on Vacation came out on Netflix. Let's binge it. Let's watch it. And we did together. And I feel like the consensus of the group was we liked the movie better than the book, which is very rare. But I say that, and I want to reread the book. How old was I in 2021? That was like 5 years ago, almost, pretty much. So I was a different person then. I was also I had just had a baby a couple months prior to that. And so we'll see how things have changed. Oh, Carly, you already have thoughts. I'm surprised because, like, I've read books, I read Ready Player 2 last month, and I couldn't tell you hardly anything about that book now, and I just read that book last month. So the fact that you still remember, it must have really done a thing. And I do read a ton of horror. I'm currently reading a romance book. Oh, and I read a ton of horror. I hate the word read because you never know if it's read or read. Yeah, back in 2021, in 2022, 2020, I think 2023, most of what I read was horror / thrillers. I used to read a lot of extreme horror as well. Yeah, and I would wear all black clothes and have black hair, and I was just living my little best life. I was going through it, though, like, mentally. It's fine. I still like darker things, but I have come to... Okay, no. Let me take that back. I do still like darker things. Like, so when I read thriller books, I prefer the darker thrillers than I do. Like, I would rather a thriller about a serial killer going through town, slicing and dicing, leaving bodies everywhere, than read a thriller about a husband abusing his wife or some stupid shit like that. 100%. But in horror, there are so many like would you call it sub genres or whatever in horror? There are so many. So like, I guess I would have to deep dive and figure out, but I can't really pinpoint exactly what you would call my taste in horror. Now, Stephen King, he, in my head, is his own genre. I'm not talking about his stuff. I'm talking about like, so Brother by Anya Allborn, I loved because there was no woo-woo. There was no, you weren't fucking summoning ghosts. There was no creature feature, none of that. It was like humans doing I'm scaring myself. A shadow. It's like humans doing bad stuff. That's like, and I don't want to say that's the kind of stuff I love because that sounds really weird. It's fiction though, right? So it's different. But so I would read some stuff, like I read Brother by Anya Allborn, and everybody's like, oh, that is so dark and disgusting, and you're going to need the trigger. But it's like a lot of the dark and disgusting stuff. It is a good book. It's one of my favorite horror books now, but this is my critique to it. A lot of the dark and disgusting stuff is off page. They just kind of talk about what's going on. And I'm like, sometimes, like when you watch a horror movie to like feel scared, like you want those jump scares. You want to not be able to turn off the light at nighttime. You want to be able, like when you do turn off the light, you haul ass to your bedroom and your feet don't even touch the floor, kind of scared. But that's what I crave in a horror book. But I feel like a lot of the horror books that I picked up, they're either sexualizing this stuff, and I don't like that, or it doesn't go where it could go. Like you have this fantastic storyline, you have these characters, like they're literally cannibals. Like you could do some dark shit with this, but you don't. You know what I mean? Anyway, and when I say sexualized stuff, there's horror books. Like there was one I read, and they're meeting together in a hotel room so that she can stretch her hoo-ha out and he can stick his head up her hoo-ha. And that's the whole plot of the fucking book. And I'm just like, are we really doing this? Is this the whole plot of this book? And then it's just like, and then you read horror books and I don't know. I feel like they're sexualizing it, but I want them to get really dark without that aspect to it, I don't know where this conversation is going and what we're talking about, but that's that. I have heard that, so I tried Googling it because I was like, sometimes you get a book and you're like, oh yeah, this could have went so dark, but it doesn't. And so it makes me wonder if the publishers have like a stopping point. You know what I mean? Like, do the publishers be like, okay, you need to reel it in, or we're going to get the straitjacket out to these authors if they do go a little too dark? Because most of the like really dark stuff is not from American authors. And I feel like maybe the publishing companies in other countries have different opinions on the matter. I'm not saying UK. I feel like a lot of the UK authors are more so, the ones that I've read, are more so like drama. Like their thrillers are just like family drama, a little suspense. Nobody really dies. If they do, like, it's off page. Like Lisa Jewell, she does have one book that she does kind of go a little far, but for the most part, you read, it's like in their books, look at me clumping them all together. But for like Ruth Ware, Lisa Jewell, whatever, it's like a lot of their books, you don't get to be there. It's like they have all this build up, and then you get to the part where the reveals happen, but you're not really there. So like one book that I read was called The Family Upstairs, and has all this build up. No, wait, was it The Family Upstairs? No. It's Behind Closed Doors by B.A. Paris. It's a very popular book. And everybody was like, oh, you need to read it. Oh, you need to read it. So I was like, okay, cool, bet. I'll read it. And I read it. And she had such potential to like really go places with this book, right? Like, it's very unrealistic. Like, be so for real. Like, if you really step back and think about what exactly is going on in this book, it's super unrealistic. But she had the opportunity to like really go far and go dark and whatnot. And then you get to the end, to the big reveal. You don't even get to be there. You get to read about the character telling another character what happened instead of the author letting you be there with it. You know, does that make any sense? Kind of like it's like a fade to black situation. Because it's like, oh, she got revenge on her husband or like whatever. But we didn't get to see it. You just get to see Veronica telling Becky at the counter of what happened. And like that shit pisses me off. Like you really took me through the mud for nothing. Like I want to be triggered. Not like in a bad way, but you know what I mean? Like I want to be thrilled. And maybe I'm just a little fucked up. But yeah. But that's my biggest womb. I'm glad Carly knew what Womb was actually the book that was like my final decision that I was no longer reading. What's the word? Not exotic. Extreme horror anymore because it was Womb and then I read one. There was a few others that I'm just like, it was just sexualizing this stuff. And I'm just like, what is this? What is even this? And then thrillers. I'm just like, but you read some, and this is why I lean heavily towards crime thrillers, because I feel like in crime thrillers, because a lot of the times your main character is a detective of some sort, whether that be an actual detective or it just be somebody with a detective cap on, whatever, you know, like a Veronica Mars situation. But because you have this detective type character, you get to be there when the discoveries go down. You get to go to the crime scenes. You get to, you know, like this is so weird to say. You get the descriptions of like the crime scenes and whatnot. And maybe it's because I was raised up on Law and Order SVU that this is why I'm like this. I don't know, but I've been through a lot of shit in my life. Maybe that's also why. Who really knows? But I have been wanting to get back into thrillers lately. I really just want to sit down and just read everything. You know what I mean? I started Assassin's Blade. I'm glad you're hanging on by a thread here. I started Assassin's Blade after I finished Airfire. So I'm going to finish that up this evening, or not finish it up, but get through a lot of it this evening. But then I thought about doing like, so I don't know if you've browsed any of my short form content, whether that be on Instagram or on TikTok, but I do a lot of just like standing in front of the camera and being like, here's 7 books that if you want your panties in a knot, you need to read these books. And then I just talk about what those books are. But I thought about doing videos like vlogs, reading vlogs, but like short form reading vlogs on TikTok and stuff. I also really need to get back to YouTube as well. It's just with my kids home for the summer. Girl, I can barely get time to put my panties on without them interrupting me, much less, you know? Their dad's home right now, which is why they're not in here with me, because that's what they be doing. They're 6 and 7. By the time they're old enough to like do everything by themselves, I will have retired from. Well, I've been thinking about that. I'm like, at what age do you stop doing content? You know what I mean? Like what? But I feel like my age is like the prime, like right when I graduated high school is when YouTube was invented. You know what I mean? They are 6, 7, yeah. And they cackle when you when like people are like, oh, because a lot, like when we're out and about, so many people think they're twins. And they're like, oh, you got twins. And I'm like, no, they're 12 months apart, 6 and 7. And then they'll just be like, 6, 7. So, you know, today's the 6th and also tomorrow is the 7th. And then my son is turning 7. So my daughter just turned 7 in November. My son will turn 7 this coming up. And I think I'm going to do a 6-7 themed party for him, I think, depending on, because he normally likes farm animal stuff. He's very big into farms and horses and whatnot. Which, oh my gosh, I don't know if y'all, I don't watch the news. I have anxiety as it is. I don't need all of that shit. You know what I'm saying? Because there's a lot of it. But I do follow a few different people that give you the news. And I probably shouldn't either. But this is how I discovered that there's like I live in Texas. I don't know if you are familiar with that. But there's some type of worm. So far they have found 2. It's like a flesh-eating worm that I feel like gets into the cows. I don't know. I don't want to Google because worms gross me out, and I don't want any pictures to pop up. But anyway, and so I hear, that's in Texas, and so part of me is like, if we eat the meat that is potentially contaminated, a screwworm, thank you. I'm glad you're clocked in because I'm telling you. Like, do we get sick? Do we die? Like, we already have to deal with that other thing from the ship. What was that called? COVID-2, 2.0? And stressing about that because now it's the World Cup, and I live right outside of Houston, and they're housing some people from the World Cup in Houston, which, fine, go and do that, but keep your illnesses to yourself. You know what I mean? And then I don't follow, look, this is probably going to sound really horrible, but I don't follow anybody. Well, I don't even know his fucking name. RFK, RF something or another, JRK, whatever. Some guy that constantly keeps cutting off things like, I don't know. Like I said, I don't follow the news because them people piss me the fuck off. Especially the dumbass that, anyway. What is this? Anyway, they done cut funding for these people that actually go out there and do research on this stuff. So then what? You know what I mean? They just literally, they're wanting to cut the funding for the bees. Do they not realize that without bees, we will no longer be able to be humans? We will no longer be able to be alive without bees. And you're cutting the funding for the place that deals with sick bees. For what? For you to have a fucking ballroom underground, which is so suspicious. Who needs a ballroom underground? Be so for real. And building a UFC thing and on the court. That is the most white trash stuff that I have ever heard in my entire life. Them people just piss me off. Anyway. And this is why I read books. Because I would rather read about somebody else's drama than hear about their bullshit every day. Yeah, girl, because I already got mad health anxiety. And then I got to hear about all these screwworms and stuff when I live in Texas. I don't eat beef a ton. Does the screwworms affect chicken? Anyway, I don't know. That's scary. So yeah, before we wrap things up here, because I'm just, I'm so glad you guys are popping in to talk to me. Because who am I to talk to? I don't know, girl. Any other books y'all would like to see? What adaptations are coming out? The thing is it has to be an adaptation that we can stream, because I'm going to see the Toy Story movie in the theaters, but if I go to the theaters, I either have to go by myself and my husband stay home and watch the kids, or my kids have to come with me. So we don't really go to the theaters unless it's kid friendly so that my kids can go and I'm not there by myself. I mean, I don't mind being there by myself, but I'd rather not. Japanese Gothic. Is that a show? East of Eden comes out. Oh, it's coming straight to Netflix. If so, I would really like to read East of Eden and Rebecca as well. The only thing is with Rebecca, I cannot find an edition that I like. That is so stupid. That is the dumbest reason. That's the main reason why I haven't read it yet, because I can't find an edition that I like. And when I read classics, I'm saying this like I read a lot. When I read classics, I like to have it, I like to, what do you call it, immersion read, because I don't know if y'all have ever opened up Wuthering Heights, but that is, like, I speak in cornbread occasionally, but that's some rough stuff to get through by yourself. Oh, it's a book. Okay. I haven't heard of it, but I have been so out of the loop because of this. Do we even want to call it a reading slump? I don't know what it is. It's a slump in general. I haven't cross-stitched. I haven't crocheted. I did cookies the other day for my neighbor, and the amount of times I wanted to message her and be like, you know what? Never mind. I don't want to do this. I'm not in the mood. I don't want to. But I didn't. She came today and picked them up. My hair looks rough. I took a shower earlier, and then I just let it air dry. I'm going to get it cut because look. Well, you can't really see, but like, well, you kind of can. Like from here down, it's so thin. I have such thin, fine hair. It's so stringy, and there's hair like on my bathroom floor, from me brushing it. It grosses me out. It's very easy to read. You know what? I probably can even get it on my Kindle. It's hot in here. I do want to read it though, because I feel like out of all of the classics, that's probably one that's more up my alley. Because it's supposed to be like a thriller-esque type book. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna try to pull out my cross stitch. It's them damn phones. For fun. I have to get off here in a minute. I feel like I'm about to throw up. I need to go eat dinner. Okay. For funsies, let's see what my screen time is. It is horrible. I already know. It's because I can't stop scrolling. And if it's not TikTok, it's Instagram Reels. If it's not Instagram Reels, it's Facebook Reels. And it's just an actual shit show. You want to see? That's sad. That's actually sad. 9 hours and 46 minutes. Tisk, tisk, tisk. Let's see what it says. TikTok. Damn. Just in the past 7 days, 35 and a half hours. That's a full-time job. Truly. That is a full-time job. Crazy. 2 hours and 45 minutes on Safari. That's me Googling how do you use a fucking glucose monitor? What does it mean when they say insulin resistance? Like, I don't know any of this shit. And then I've been on TikTok trying to find recipes. And now, my husband went to the store earlier, and I was like, while you're there, get me some whole wheat flour, because tomorrow I'm going to start a starter for sourdough. I'm going to try. You're going to win the World Cup. You know what? If you do, I will applaud you. Because I don't root for anyone. I mean, in particular. So, I can't wait for when does it start? I know, like, aren't they here already? I think they said they're already here. Does it start? Does it start? The cute players. That's literally the only reason why I would watch it as well. One time, my friend and I, this was back when I lived in my hometown, we were going to Houston to the Maroon 5 concert. And so we stayed at a hotel because, concerts end at like 10, 11 o'clock, depending on whatever. And then the traffic in Houston's horrible. And so we just got a hotel and stayed at the hotel. And our hotel was housing a bunch of soccer players. And we went down to the bar because it was like a nicer hotel. Because at the time I worked and my job covered like 60% of your hotel stay at certain hotels. Anyway, and so we stayed at this really nice hotel, and it was housing a bunch of soccer players, and I was probably like 19. I don't know. No, I wasn't. No, it couldn't have been 19 because we went to the bar and we got a drink. So, but I didn't have kids or nothing then. I was young. And we went to the bar to get a drink, and we got, I want to say it was like Goldschlager. It was before Fireball became Fireball. You know what I mean? It was, or Hot Damn. It could have been that. It was a cinnamon whiskey, needless to say. And we got shots of it. And that shit went down the wrong pipe. You know, like when you drink and I was in the bar with all these soccer players and stuff, choking to death. So we're going back to when I was able to breathe again. Thought I was going to die right there in that hotel room. Oh, that was horrible. But anyway, it was probably like $60 worth of shots too. And I went straight back. I was embarrassed. See, the thing is like, because I post on Instagram and I post on TikTok, I don't want to delete them. I don't make any money, by the way, from Instagram at all. Instagram is just my favorite social media out of all the social medias because I feel like you can get on a more personal, this sounds stupid to say, but like I feel like it's more personal on Instagram than it is on any other, because I'm always in my stories, you know what I'm saying? And so that's why I don't get paid on Instagram or anything. Instagram is just there for me and my enjoyment. But TikTok, I do get, y'all want to know how much money I made in May on TikTok? And I feel like I posted more on TikTok in May than I have in the past few months. And I made $43. Be jealous. I don't make a lot of money from social media. Social media is more just like for funsies, I guess you would say. But because I post on there, I really like to post and stuff because you get arcs and stuff from publishers. And I say that, and I haven't really been getting arcs anymore. They keep telling me, I got an email from the publishers of the new Victoria Aveyard book, the pirate one, asking if I want an arc. And I was like, yeah, 100%, send it my way. And I gave them my address, and I've heard nothing back. And then Karen Slaughter's People was supposed to send me a book, and they haven't either. That's the main reason why I keep posting. Also, like, so I owned lots of books before I even had social media, part one. Part two is if I didn't have social media anymore, I would still own a lot of books, and I would still buy books because I enjoy reading. I don't do this for, if I did, I would be on a better schedule, especially on YouTube, because I've only been posting like once a month. It's whatever the slump is I'm in. It's causing me to do this. I'll get better. I'll get better at it, okay? I'll get better at it. My husband's like, you need to lock in. He told me the other day, you need to lock in. You need to lock in with the social media stuff. Because my Instagram is growing so much. But my Instagram, I went from like 7,000 to 10,000 in like a week and a half when we were doing those challenge videos. Crazy. The World Cup. When does it start? My husband will probably be watching it because he watches all sport. He watches every sport. Football, baseball. I think the only one he does not watch is basketball. And when I say all sport, this man watches bowling competitions. This man watches, like when they do Winter Olympics, he watches all of that. He keeps up with, he used to be an umpire, so he really loves baseball, but I'm pretty sure he'll be watching this as well. June 11th is when it starts. To what? July? Damn, it goes that long. Anyway, the more you know. I will go to a baseball game because I enjoy the environment. But that's about it. I went to a football game once. We went to a Dallas Cowboys football game. And it could be because I was big and pregnant, hot and miserable, that I didn't enjoy it. But I ain't going back. And then My husband is also a fan of hockey. He watches hockey as well. And he likes the Dallas Stars. That's the only team that I know of, only because I got a husband and he talks about them. And he watches the Dallas Stars and he always says, let's go to a hockey game. Let's go to a hockey game. I just don't know. I just don't know if I would like that. Is your dad understandable? And you fell asleep. Baseball to me, like baseball is the easiest to understand and to follow that I've tried to understand and follow. I've tried to understand and follow football and I just can't do it. There's a lot of stuff. I'm like, what the fuck does a first down mean? Does that mean we got our first touchdown? Because that sounds like that's what that means. And it's not. It's not. But like baseball, it's like 3 strikes, you're out. Boom, bam, and pow. And then the little thing at the bottom of the screen will tell you what inning you're in. Top of the 9, bottom of the 9, top of the 8th, bottom of the 8th. What else? Like the only thing that I hate about baseball games is there are certain sections that you have to really be focused on the game the whole time because balls will fly. And if you're not watching and you get hit by one, that's very dangerous. And when we go, we bring our kids. And then sometimes my husband's like, let's go. And we'll get there and he's like, our seats are so nosebleed, the fucking brick walls behind us. I said, don't you ever do this ever again. Ever. I would rather watch it on the TV screen. See, I can't understand football. My husband loves football. Football, I would say, he used to umpire, and so like he's really good at baseball. Like, and he plays softball tournaments with his job when they do that. But he used to have a garage decorated in football stuff and like Dallas Cowboys bullshit. And he has like the Texas Longhorn tattoo on his leg. He likes football too. He likes football, hockey, baseball, whatever. A banana ball game. It seems like fun. But I believe you have to do like for those, I could be wrong, but I believe you have to like enter in a pot or something. Enter in something. And then you just gotta pray that you get picked to buy tickets or something or another. It does seem fun though, but I just don't have the time to care about it. What is it called? Not a carnival. You enter in something. I don't know. But my daughter has I guess my daughter's best friend's name is Maddie. Maddie plays soccer. The only thing is with soccer, it's so early in the morning, But my daughter might play soccer with Maddie this coming whenever the fuck it starts. I don't even know. But she also brought Emerson Savannah Bananas friendship bracelet. So they must do that as well. Oh, speaking of, so my kids have been out of school since middle of May. That's here in Texas. That's essentially when we get out of school. And so it's been like 2 weeks they've had already with no school. And I don't know Maddie's parents, but Maddie's mom found me on Facebook. I guess Maddie remembered what my name was. And so Maddie's mom found me on Facebook and was like, hey, Maddie's having her birthday party on this day. Can Emerson come? And I was like, yes, Emerson would love to come. And so I told Emerson, I was like, hey, on this day, we're going to go to Maddie's birthday party. And Emerson started crying. She was so happy. And I was like, she really misses her friend. And it's only been 2 weeks of summer. And we still got like 68 days left of summer. Yeah, I see them all the time on TikTok. Their little dance routines and stuff. But we are Houston Astros fans. That's like, I say we. That's like they're right down the road, So if we want to go to a game, it's right down the, not right down the road because it's in downtown Houston, but you get it. It's like right here. And that's where we go. It's funny because when I first met my husband, it was in 2017. and the Houston Astros, that's the first year that they went to the World Series in a while. Like, it had been a while since they had won the World Series, and then they won it in 2017. And so I guess maybe the only reason why I like really caught on to baseball is because we would like, he would be like, "Hey, you want to meet me at a Buffalo Wild Wings so we can watch the game tonight?" And I was like, "Sure." Little did I know, like, you don't just up and leave when you're done eating your food. And you sat there until the game was over with. We were in that Buffalo Wild Wings for like 5 hours. And then one night, one of their games kept going into overtime or whatever it's called, because and it went in until 1 o'clock in the morning until finally the Astros won. And I was like, this is absolutely bananas. Absolutely bananas. And then I think they won again in 2018 or something like that. I don't know. But his whole family is really big Astros fans. So he's really big into it. And maybe that's why. I don't know. I couldn't tell you any player. Yes, I can. Jose Altuve is the only player that I could tell you. It's because every year they like trade off their players, and you go and you buy a jersey with the player's name on the back, and then the next season that player's been traded off somewhere else. And I was like, what the hell, bruh? One of them kept coming back going. I think Jose is the only one that is like one of their popular players that has stayed the whole time. You would have Ubered home. Look, it was like one of our like first or second times like spending time, because we had just started talking at that stage of life. And so I was like, I didn't want to be rude, and then now look. Now that we're married and we head on out to the Buffalo Wild Wings to watch a baseball game, and you keep telling me we're going to be there for 5 hours, my ass don't leave. And you coming with me. Like, we ain't doing that. No. But before we were married, I was like, well, I guess I'll just stay here and play Sudoku on my phone the whole time. Anyway, men in their sports. But yeah, I don't know where that conversation came from. Which brings me to the topic of sports romance books. Have you read any good ones lately? Oh, I started talking earlier and then I got sidetracked as per usual. I am reading a romance book right now on my Kindle. I pay for Kindle Unlimited and I probably read a book every 3 months. I really got to stop. Anyway, I'm reading it's called Rock Bottom Girl by Lucy Score. And it's taken me forever. And I Googled and it's like 500 plus pages long. First off, criminal. Second off, when does it get good? But it's also like fake dating. And also I'm very picky with romance books. 9 out of 10 times I don't like them. Like, I'll read them because I don't like to read scary stuff at nighttime on my Kindle. Or I don't like to read dark stuff because I have very vivid dreams. Okay? I woke up this morning crying. Like, like when you cry in your dream? And then sometimes you wake up and it's like you've been crying in real life, but you were sleeping. I woke up crying. I was like, what the fuck? Because in my dream, my kids were gone. Like, we were out somewhere and they just walked off or something, and my kids were gone. And I was asking everybody, like, have you seen my kids? Can you help me look for my kids? And nobody would help me look for my kids, and they were gone. And everybody was just like, no, sorry, haven't seen them. And and I was crying so hard. Nobody would, and I'm like, where the fuck are my kids? And like, nobody. And then, anyway, I woke up crying. What does that mean? Ugh, Powerless is the worst. I've read, out of the Chestnut Spring series, which I've read the whole thing, Powerless was the worst one, in my opinion. Well, all sports romances are smut. I'm not judging. I'm just saying, like, I feel like this day and age, you can't find romance books that don't have it in there. You know what I mean? So, like, no judging. I'm not judging you. I'm just saying, for my personal taste, I would rather them not be full of smut. I want plot. I want longing. I want angst. I want, like, fake dating without them humping each other. Like, to me, like I was saying, in this Rock Bottom girl book, I have a feeling that this couple is going to be doing the nasty before they actually, like, which, I mean, I get it, but like, it can't, to me, it cannot be true fake dating if they're also fucking at the same time. Like, I want a fake dating when they're not, when they're like, they own, you know? Do you know what I mean? I feel like there's no more tension and angst and longing if they're already screwing. Like, what's the point of the book? If they're already screwing, are we just waiting for them to put a title on it, or like, what's going on? You know, like, I want them to wait. Anyway, have you read Carly? Are you reading them in order? So you read Reckless? I have mine right here. Which I have, this is my bootleg copy. Because I didn't know that this was going to be like a limited printing or whatever. I didn't know I was going to enjoy this series until I got to I'm sorry, not Reckless, Heartless. Okay? And then I went to go buy this book, and you can't buy it from stores anymore, so I found a person selling it on eBay. It comes in, it's a bootleg copy that I paid $30 for. Yeah, I'm pissed. But I really want to get rid of these and get the regular covers. But then I feel like it's stupid because I did not like Flawless. I did not like Powerless. I loved Heartless. Reckless was good. I cried in Reckless, though. So I have an attachment there. And then Hopeless was good. It wasn't like my favorite. Yes, Heartless is I want to say Heartless is like my all-time favorite book. All-time favorite romance book. But the thing is like, I also really love Happy Place, and it's definitely not on the same level as Heartless, because Happy Place is fake dating. No, it's not. It's like fake marriage. Well, it's not. Okay, it's them. They're breaking up. They're not together anymore, but they don't want their friends to know, so they're pretending that they're still together, and that I love. And I feel like she did it so good. Now, yeah. So that's also one of my favorites. And then I have, what was it, Heartless? But then I also love this beast, The Wall of Winnipeg and Me. Look how big it is. And look, it's a sports romance. It's a football one. How big is it? 600 and some odd pages. Now, this, they probably don't do the nasty until right here. And that's what I love. Okay? That's what I love. But then there's also scenes where they start and they get interrupted. And I also like that. I'm like, yes, interrupt them motherfuckers. Keep the tension going. Keep the angst alive. Yeah. Anyway. No, I mean real smut. Cover had the guy's package. Okay. In his football pants. So, my bad. So, like, I have had my share of real smut. Okay. I went through a phase. Okay. Let me tell you, this is my timeline. So, I've read all of my life, but I will preface that by saying I didn't own books until after everybody's left the chat. I didn't own books until after I graduated high school and got a job. So prior to that, I lived with my mom like during my early childhood, and I would get books like from my school's library and stuff. And my mom, we also had a big book collection, but a lot of them were like Dr. Seuss and stuff. So there got to a point where I was getting them just from the school library. And like Hank the Cowdog, I was really addicted to that series. But then when I graduated high school and I got a job, and this was pre-smartphone, okay? I got a job. Or if you did have a smartphone, you had to like pay to be on the internet. It was, in these days, you paid for minutes, you paid for text, you paid for minutes on the internet. Like, phones was different back then, okay? So I couldn't just sit there and there was no social media on the phones then. Anyway, it was quite different. So I got a job right after I graduated high school, making $6 an hour. And during my lunch break, I was so bored. There was nothing to do. And so there was a Goodwill, like maybe a block away. So I walked into the Goodwill and I walked my little happy tail to the back and I bought a Jodi Picoult book called Change of Heart. It's the first book that I read outside of school, outside of like getting books from the library at school. And so I got Change of Heart by Jodi Picoult, read that, read a few more by her, like My Sister's Keeper, is it called 9 Minutes, and a few others by her. And then I also hopped over and read some Nicholas Sparks. And at this time, I had no idea that young adult existed, right? And then one day somebody was like, I think it was New Moon had just came out. This was before a movie idea was even thought of, right? This was like right at the beginning of the Twilight stuff. And I found Twilight. And then I found like Vampire Academy. And then I found like the Marked or House of Night series. And I read all those kind of books. And then, you know, I was reading like Cinder and Scarlet and Divergent and Hunger Games and all these kind of books. I read all of those, like the book series and whatnot. And then one day I stumbled across this book called Easy by Tamara Weber. Now, if I read this book like right now, it's probably not a smut scene in sight. But back then, and this was before ACOTAR even came out. We'll get to that in a second. So I read Easy by Tamara Weber, and it was a romance book, but like they did more than just your regular Sarah Dessen YA romance. And I was like, how do I find more of these books where the characters are my age? So like I wasn't looking for the ripped bodice romances. I wanted whatever. And this was also at the time where new adult genre was not a thing. I was a booktuber at this time, okay? I was on BookTube. This was probably like in 2013 or some shit like that at this time. Colleen Hoover was not a well-known name, right? And so I was like Googling. And in one of the reviews on Goodreads, somebody said that this reminded them of Hopeless or something by Colleen Hoover. So I went to go find that book, right? And it was 99 cents because this was not when Colleen Hoover was a nobody at this point. Like she just had Slammed series out, Hopeless, and I think maybe Someday, or like she barely had anything out. And I read Hopeless, and I probably read it in one sit. I remember going to work the next morning and sitting at the table, and my boss was like, "Why are your eyes so red?" And I was like, "Because I have not been to sleep. I started a book last night and I finished it about an hour before I had to get up for work." And it was Hopeless by Colleen Hoover. And then I went from that to like Jennifer L. Armentrout romance, like new adult books. I remember I wish I had my Goodreads from back then, and I don't. I remember reading a book where I went from new adult to adult romance, okay? And I don't recall any of the names because I was reading, they were either free on Kindle Unlimited or they were like very, very cheap, okay? And I remember reading one, and he literally like finished on himself, and then made her lick it all off. Like it was, Beth today would not be excited about these books that I was reading back in the day. I'm trying to think I can picture the cover of one of the series that I read in my head. And it has like a girl with like neon colors called Tease. Maybe not. I don't know. Anyway, so for about a year, I was reading some romance books. Okay, there was some stuff. But that's different. But that was before probably even dark romance was a thing. I know erotica was a thing because Sylvia Day was really big in this time. What's that other person? I can't think of the name. Anyway, so I went through my little smut phase, but that was before it was really popular. And so this was at the time when everybody was still reading YA. Like YA was booming at this time. And so talking to people about it, nobody that I was talking to was reading this kind of stuff. They were still reading stuff like the Shatter Me series and whatnot, which I was still reading them too, but I was into it. And then what had changed for me was, I don't even know what had changed for me. I just think that I don't know. Like, I mean, in my head, I'm like, a sex scene is a sex scene. You have to give me more. You have to make me want to care about these characters. Are they even compatible with each other? Because like reading Fourth Wing, they're not compatible with one another. I'm sorry, they're not. I know Fourth Wing is not smut. In my eyes, it's not smut. They're compatible. They're not compatible with one another. So you have Violet and Xaden. All they do is fight. Fuck or fight. That's it. They do not belong with one another. And I don't want to pray on that. That's a sorry excuse to pray. I hope that in book 4 he just stays a villain and that's it. You know what I mean? Like chapters 54 and 55. Which Anne Rice books? Which Anne Rice books? Because Anne Rice got nasty for a little bit. And then she found Jesus and changed her ways, I guess you would say. But my mama used to read her fairy tale romance books. Chapter 4 and 55. And see, maybe I need to revisit those books, but I don't recall it being, I don't know, maybe I need to revisit those books. I mean, I know what happens and like I get it, but to me it's like this is such a Vampires and Witches. Okay, so that wasn't, so you never read The Claim of Sleeping Beauty? I never read it, but it's erotica. Like, so Anne Rice has her vampire and witchy type books, which I have a few on my shelves, and then she has her erotica books. Okay. And then she has her, like, when she got really big into Christianity or whatever books. So like in Heartless, you know the scene where, is it a hot tub that they're at? Like that scene, but like nothing really happens, but stuff happens, but nothing really happens. Like I like scenes like that. Like it gives me something to look forward to. Like makes me giddy for the next chapter. You know what I mean? Versus like once they give into each other, I'm just like, okay, I'm done. This okay. Let's go on to the next one. You know, I don't know, girl. But I just I also feel like with a lot of books, so I've read like Tessa Bailey books. If you take the smut out of her books, the plots cannot stand on its own. And like it's literally, it's like she writes a story around the smut, similar to porn. I don't watch porn, but I know porn. You know what I mean? And it's like they put a little fake story to go along with the stuff. And I feel like that's what a lot of romance authors do now because sex sells. These books are selling. These books are trending. And that's what they do. And there are people that love that. And that's why that they are trending, is because they have a big, broad audience for those kind of books. I just prefer them wait, damn it. Just wait at least until 75% into the book. Because I don't care. That's why the term happily ever after exists. They kiss and then happily ever after. Give me 75% of a book or 80%, and then after all the tension and the angst and whatever and the teasing and the banter back and forth and whatever, finally they have that night or day or whatever the fuck you want to have. You know what I mean? I haven't read that, but I own the first one. Chapter 50. Okay. I'm currently reading Heir of Fire. No, I'm not. I just finished Heir of Fire. I'm currently reading Assassin's Blade, and then I got to dive into the rest of that series. And then I'm going, after that series, I'm reading the Crescent City trilogy. Is that finished? I don't know. And then after that, I'm going to reread the ACOTAR series. And then upon my reread, I read those books, and honestly, they're entertaining, but I don't think I love them as much as everybody else loves them. I feel like a lot of it was it felt like, I don't want to say cheesy, but and then Silver Flames just drug. Like, I liked Silver Flames. I want to say it might be my favorite in the series. I think that's a different take than most people. Not because it's full of smut now, because there's this thing that I really like in fantasy books, or in other books too, because this occurs in like Divergent and whatnot, is a training scene. When the person is being trained by somebody else, and it's also like happened in Charmed with Cole and Phoebe when they're like training and whatever. I really like that, and there was that in Silver Flames, and I mean, she was being trained, like Feyre was also being trained in other, but it's not the same. It didn't like stick. It didn't hit as hard as the scenes in Silver Flames. ACOTAR is your weakness. See, when I think, and I only can, when I recall things from ACOTAR, it's almost all from book number 1. And I think it's because I've read book number 1 3 times, and I've only read books 2, 3, the novella, and technically in my eyes 4 once. So maybe I just need to read it. I don't know. Silver Flames has a lot of smut chapters, and they do. But I liked Nesta. I liked the training and the stairs, and like how he didn't know what the fuck was going on in her head. Like, I like that kind of stuff. I don't want them to be all like, I don't know. It's different. And then I'm so glad that she didn't continue on with Feyre, because after the book 3, I'm sick of Feyre. I was sick of Feyre in Silver Flames. But now, after I watched the interview to hear Sarah talk about why she did what she did with Feyre in Silver Flames and whatnot, I am interested to go back and reread it with a different lens, She needed that training to heal. And she needed that training to, like, figure more stuff out about herself. But it was like a damsel in distress. I'm sorry, but I like that in books. I know people are like, no, we're like, I love an independent woman too, but I really like the whole like knight in shining armor situation as well. Also, other scenes that I really like to read in books, and they're more so in older books, because I feel like in books now people would be like, oh, that's a form of something or another. But it was like, if like they're out at a club, and she goes to a club with her friends, and she gets really sloppy drunk, and she needs someone to walk her home or somebody to take her home, and she calls him to go get her, and then they go home, and he like takes care of her. Or like if the character is sick and they're being taken care of, I like those kind of scenes in my books as well. Like in Happy Place. No, it's not Happy Place. It's in Just for the Summer. When she gets sick and the guy's like, oh, that's another okay. And the guy's literally finds a fucking floaty to float across the river to go get this girl and help her out. And also in The Hating Game, I ate that shit up. But also, oh my god, I was gonna say something. What was I gonna say? Oh, and then Just for the Summer, if you've read that, like, oh, I have to reread it again. Like when she has like a list or something, That's why I like rereading books, because you forget all this shit. And then when you get to revisit it, you get to kick your feet again. You're like, oh, I know what's coming. Anyway, and just for the summer, oh yes, I'm very much an active service kind of girl. And also like my man to be like manly. And I think that's why I like the training scenes, because it gives very like sweaty man. Anyway, but in Just for the Summer, doesn't she have like a list, and one of those lists is like they have to kiss? But he like held that back from her, even to the point where she wanted to kiss him, he wouldn't let her kiss him. And like that's like the kind of, I like that kind of stuff. I'm like, yes, be a tease, bitch. Be a tease. Let us wait for a little bit. Just for the Summer is it next? Yeah. Crescent City, if you like those tropes. And see, so many people, I feel like so many people shit on Crescent City, and it makes me not excited to read it. But I've also, I don't know if y'all know this, but I'm a really big fan of Criminal Minds. And somebody told me that because I'm a big fan of Criminal Minds, Crescent City might be the series that I love by Sarah J. Maas. Because like I did enjoy the ACOTAR series, but they're not, I wouldn't call any of those a favorite book. I don't ever like, oh, I want to read it so bad. You know, that's not. So maybe now I will say, after reading, so I read Throne of Glass, and then Queen of Shadows. I can't see up there, but no, Throne of Glass, Crown of Midnight, and both of them were decent. I think I gave them both 4 stars, but they weren't like, I was like, if this is how the series is going to go, I don't know if this is going to be a favorite of mine either. But then I got to Heir of Fire, and I feel like Heir of Fire read differently than the first 2. I feel like we were introduced to more characters, and it's getting to feel less YA. I felt like the first 2 felt very like how a YA book is written, which is understandable because I believe Sarah J. Maas wrote those books at a very young age. Also, I was going to mention this earlier, but I forgot. Back when I was talking to you about my little romantic phase that I was in for a little bit, I actually might have some of those books still on my Kindle that I read back in the day. When ACOTAR came out. So when I told you that, like, during my romantic era that I was in, like my romance era, in BookTube, romance was not popular. When people were reading romance, they were reading Sarah Dessen. You know what I mean? Like, they were reading, I can't even think of another one. There was another book. The front cover was like a couple kissing, and it was a door, and the spine was striped. It was like My Life with the Boys Next Door or something. Or The Summer I Turned Pretty was really big back then, because that's when I read that series. ACOTAR came out, the first book. And at this time, we didn't really know much. All we knew was that it was pitched as a Beauty and the Beast retelling book. And because, like, we didn't really, like, new adult wasn't, like, the genre new adult wasn't that big back then. And people were, like, shitting on it at first because they were like, this has sex in it. Why is it being, pitched to young adults? There's sex in it, blah, blah, blah. Like, people didn't really care for ACOTAR when it first came out, which is crazy because times is different now. What was I about to look up? I was about to look up something and I didn't forget what I was supposed to look up. Okay. And now I'm reading Assassin's Blade, and I know I'm reading it differently than how other people read it because I was looking it up. I was first going to reread it. I was first going to read it in publication order. And because back in the day, that's when I was first buying mine. I read the first 2. Assassin's Blade came out, and people were saying, oh, it's just the novellas. It's not that big. Because, you can read series without reading the novellas and get the grasp of the whole story. So people were like, oh, it's just a bind up of novellas. It's not that big a deal, whatever. So I didn't even read Assassin's Blade. And then I picked up, I guess it was Heir of Fire, and I never finished Heir of Fire because going into Heir of Fire, we knew that Chaol wasn't going to be the end all be all, and he was my end all be all back in the day. And I was like, yeah, nah, this ain't for me, fam. You're not pulling it's a Haramothi on me. You're not doing it, because she switched up on the love interest too, and it pissed me off because I was loyal. Okay. This time around though, reading it, I was like, why did I like Chaol in the beginning? Because I feel like there was really no chemistry between the two. I was like rooting more for Dorian than I was for Chaol. And then now I'm not rooting for either. I'm rooting for the other guy, Rowan, 100%. And if she switch up again, I'm gonna be pissed. Publication order by default. And then Erica Nicole. And then so I was looking up, I was like, hey, what order do I want to read this book in? Like, what would be the best order to read it in? I already know Chaol's not the end all be all, so it ain't going to piss me off, blah, 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 like I already know. So I actually found that Sarah J. Maas herself recommended to read it after Heir of Fire. So that's what I'm doing. And it makes sense because, like towards the end of Heir of Fire, when she like goes into the lake and stuff, you then get more of her background and stuff. And then, so it helps you fill in empty spaces when diving into Assassin's Blade, because those stories take place back then. So like, to me, it kind of made sense. So I'm not mad about it. However, with all the stuff that went down in Heir of Fire, with like the king and Dorian, is his name Dorian? With this Lord of the Rings stuff, all of these names. Is it Dorian? Anyway, and everything that happened in the castle, I'm like, okay, I really need to get to, is it Queen of Shadows? Queen of Shadows. And then it's Empire of, okay, and then after I read Queen of Shadows, would you recommend the tandem read, or should I read them separate? And isn't one of those books about Chaol? Empire of Storms, Tower of Dawn. And also, anyway, I don't want to spoil anything, but there was something that happened in Heir of Fire that just pissed me the fuck off. Chaol was still my end all be all, but I was so happy when they didn't end together because I did not like them together. They didn't really have chemistry at all, and it blows my mind that I was like rooting so hard for Chaol back then. But I was only like, I was a wee baby, so she didn't know. It also, so when I read the Twilight series back then, I was Team Edward from the get-go. I never once was a Team Jacob. But again, I read the books before the movies were even like, at least I don't think the movie, I know for sure the first 3 books were already out before the movie thing happened. Anyway, I digress. I already had the characters pictured in my head before I was given Robert Pattinson, you know what I'm saying? So I was always Team Edward, even when he did her dirty. But so many people were Team Jacob. And even, what's his name? Taylor Lautner said that Team Jacob was never supposed to be a thing. It was literally for publicity. Like it was like a stunt thing. He said, if you read the books. And so when I did my reread, was it like a year before last? She does not like Jacob ever. Ever does she like him. And matter of fact, he like tries to kiss her after she tells him no, and he still goes in to try to kiss her. After she tells him no, like she does not like him, and she tells him from the get-go that they are just friends. And I'm just like, how are people Team Jacob? Because Jacob is so fucking cringy. Reading it as an adult, he's a very cringy character. He's very much one that would get hooked up. What do you call it? Not mate. What do they call it? To a baby. He gives those vibes because he was very cringy. Anyway, what time? It's 7 o'clock, y'all. I'm about to have to go. I need to eat dinner. I'm having tuna fish. Is what I'm having. Did I tell y'all this? I'm making my sourdough. I'm going to start it tomorrow. My sourdough starter. I'm going to make a whole wheat one because I hear that it's better for you. It's better for people like me than white. So it's kind of sad. I told my husband, I was like, I want to have a full day of eating like I normally would eat and test my blood sugars throughout the day just to see how it was, you know? Because I'm telling you, listen, we're about to talk about diabetes for a second, then I'm going to let y'all go. I'm telling you, before I got like my full diagnosis, ever since I've got diagnosed with this, I've been terrified to like eat, you know what I'm saying? But I'm telling, I would eat, you don't even want to know. I would like graze all day long, but my husband would go get, like for instance, on the weekends, we normally do takeout for breakfast. It's just a thing that we've always done. So he would go to McDonald's and get like 2 chicken biscuits and a large Diet Coke, and I would have that. Or he would go to the donut shop and I would have 2 boudin kolaches with donut holes or a donut or whatever. And a monster, but like a regular monster, because they have those at the donut shop. Or it would be like we would have dinner, or it would be like on a school day, I would have lunch at 12, and then when I would leave to go get my kids at 2:30, I would stop at Sonic and have a whole ass other meal. I was a fucking hobbit, having my 11 meals a day. And this is why I've gained like 40 pounds in 5 months. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm like, I can just imagine, like I'm eating healthy now and my numbers are still high because my body's got to get used to, I don't know what my body's got to get. I done fucked the whole thing up. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so you're not doing it now just because you don't feel like, I don't feel like doing that work either. And I'm listening to them on audio because I bought all of the audiobooks back when they had like a $3.99 sale. I just bought the whole series. So I've been listening to them on audio. I don't like the way the audiobook narrator narrates because I swear to you, I used to have all the first editions of the Throne of Glass series. The first book I even had was the Barbie one that they call the Barbie one, remember? Back in the back day when I was going through my horror phase, I got rid of all of them. And I know inside those books, there was name pronunciation guides. And I want to say that even Sarah J. Maas said that his name is pronounced kale, right? Like the vegetable kale. It's just spelt differently. But the narrator calls him Kale. So I'm over here saying Kale. And it irritates me. And she like makes Dorian sound whiny as fuck. You know? Hang on a second. I'm about to search it up. But I'm lazy and I'm reading physically too, but it's a romance book. Which I know people will be like, oh, I've been saying this all wrong because the narrator says it this way. Y'all do realize the narrators are not correct. I have listened to audiobooks and it'll have a word like rendezvous, okay? And the narrator will say like, will try to pronounce it by how, you know how rendezvous is spelled. And they don't even say regular words correctly. What makes you think? And one time also, back when Colleen Hoover was okay to follow, Colleen Hoover even said that in her book, her character is named this, but she was listening to the audiobook, and this whole time the audiobook narrator has been saying it a completely different way. Them narrators are not the end-all be-all. They're not the ones who determine how a word is pronounced or how a name is pronounced. It's the author. Hang on, let me see if she says it really quick. I sold my Barbie cover for, I want to say it was like $300. I probably could have got more.
Dorian Halliard, Kale Westfall.
Oh, she does say
Sam Portman.
Kale. I swear the narrator says it weird, though. Kale. She does say Kale. I could have sworn she said Kale once. Anyway, it's Kale. Okay. I sold my entire Throne of Glass set. I had all the first editions, and I want to say the last 4 of them were signed by her. Because at this time, there you could just go to Barnes and Noble and get a signed copy. Like they weren't like when they would release them, they would have signed copies. Kind of how like they're doing with like V.E. Schwab and stuff right now. How she's and Brandon Sanderson, how he signs a lot of his books, and that you can just find them in stores. I sold them all for $50 each, except for the first one I sold for $250. I probably could have sold it for more because as soon as I posted it in the Facebook group, it sold like that. Like as soon as I posted it, I probably could have got a lot more for it, but okay, she does. I just played the thing and she pronounces it like KL. So my bad, I was wrong. I'll take the loss for that. The Barbie cover is ugly as hell. And I'm also at the stage where like I don't really care to have all the 500 different editions and collector's editions and whatnot, especially because I honestly don't think it's going to be like an all-time favorite series for me, honestly, if we're being honest, truthfully, to tell you the truth. So I'm not too worried about it. It's fine. It's okay. I have sold many books, and then after I sold them, I found out that they were actually worth a lot of money. I sold my first editions of the entire ACOTAR series, the first 4 books, for $90. I could have got a whole hell of a lot more than that. But I was dumb. It's fine. It's fine. We all do stupid shit. It's okay. But I sold them because I like the new covers better than the old covers. And again, I'm not going to collect a book just to collect a book. Like, I'm not going to collect a book when it's like, if the new covers to me are better looking, then I'm going to buy the new covers and somebody else can have the old ones. You know? The Throne of Glass is popular with guys right now. Guys themselves, let me tell you. I swear, any guy makes a TikTok account that has to do with books, they blow up. I don't understand what it is. I told my husband, I said, you need to make a book talk account so you can blow up, but grow in your beard first. Because I don't know what it is. All the guys are getting really popular on book talk. The guys that are specifically reading classics, I've seen a lot of them. I follow a handful of them, but like, there's a guy that I used to follow probably like a decade ago because he did weight loss stuff. And then he started body shaming people. So then I unfollowed him. He now has a book talk account. And every time he pops up on my FYP, I say, an interest, because he pisses me. He gets on my nerves. But what's his name? But he's doing classics. And I'm like, he must have found Smitty's account, okay? And I feel like Smitty is inspiring all these other men to make these accounts. Oh my God. Obese to Beast. Him. What do you add to your tuna? It depends on the day. Sometimes, so I'll do like tuna fish, an egg. I don't, like a lot of people do pickle relish. I don't do pickle relish. I'll either do jalapenos, or I'll do candied jalapenos, or I'll do banana peppers. Sometimes I leave them whole though. I don't chop them up. Sometimes I do like a flavored tuna. Like I have one that's a buffalo flavored, so I might put a little bit of ranch in there to make it like a buffalo ranch, to make it like wet, because I eat my tuna on crackers. I don't eat a tuna fish sandwich. But sometimes I just do basic, which is tuna, egg, a little bit of mayonnaise, a little bit of mustard, a little bit of salt and pepper, and then either jalapenos or banana peppers. And then sometimes I'm just opening the ice box and adding random stuff in there. I do not put apples in my tuna fish. I do not put raisins or cranberries or whatever else. I don't put fruit in my tuna fish. But a lot of the times I like to buy like the flavored ones, and I'll just do like a cracker, the flavored tuna, and top it with a jalapeno and eat it that way. Just whatever's whatever's in today I have buffalo, and I'm just going to put buffalo ranch tuna with an egg and maybe some jalapenos. I like it spicy. That's nothing to write home about. Just something easy for dinner because they're having pizza. And I can't have pizza right now until I get my ish, because I know myself and I know I'm not going to just be able to eat one slice, I'm going to keep going back for more. I'll talk myself into going back for more. And it's just not the way I need to do it right now. But anyway, that's that. I need to read Mistborn too. I do. I have them. I have the trilogy. There is like more books to it, but I don't ever see anybody like talk about the other books in the Mistborn series. I wanted to read so many series this year, but my golly, this reading slump has really got me. So I haven't got to much of anything, but well, I really want to read the Red Rising series because that's one of my husband's favorite series, and he always tells me, you need to read. I've read the first book, but I don't remember anything because it's been a minute. So I need to reread those. And then I have officially completed the Throne of Glass. Nope. The Lord of the Rings series. That feels really good. Feels really good to finally say that I've read it. And I need to finish the Empire of the Vampire series too, because that's a great one. And I just have so many that I want to read, Joe Abercrombie, Robin Hobb, John Gwynne. Those are my top 3 on my list alongside Brandon Sanderson. Those are like the main ones that I want to get to. And then I also want to finish the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. I need to get down there to some of my Nordic noir thrillers because I have so many down there that I've had for probably over 5 years now. And I really need to either read them or figure out what I'm doing with those. I don't know. Just a lot. You caught up? Oh, and the Greenbone Saga series. I have that one on my shelves as well. I'm also in like a book buy, not a complete ban, but we're trying to save up for a house. And so I haven't been buying any books. So maybe that's a blessing in disguise. But then I'm like, oh, do you know how many books I can get from the library? You've read the first of Red Rising twice, didn't like it either time, and it was frustrating because I really wanted to like it. My husband says out of the whole series, the first one is the worst one. So I'm just going to go off what he said because I did read the first one, and I think when I read it, I think I gave it a 4-star. But it was like, it felt very, don't take this the wrong way, but it felt very boy. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I don't know. But my dog is annoying me. Hey, you have to be so loud. You could do that in your own personal time, in your own personal space. Sir. Kaiser. Thank you. So many things to do. So many books to read. I'm going to let y'all go because I'm hungry and I'm thirsty. And I need to go take my medicine again. Because that's the perk of getting old. The writing was sloppy as hell. You ever wonder, like, if an author had a chance to go back and rewrite some of their older works, if they would do it? What was I reading to think that? I was thinking about this the other day. What book was it? And I was like, I wonder if people gave this person a chance if they would go back and rewrite book 1. So it will. What book was it? I don't remember now. It was a book in which book 1 sucked, but then the rest of the series was good. But I don't remember. It wasn't Red Rising series, but I don't remember what it was. But I follow Pierce Brown, like on Instagram and stuff, and he just seems, I am very guilty of this. I get this parasocial relationship, I guess you would say, with authors, and like the more I admire them, the more I want to read and love their books, or like the more I can appreciate their book. I don't know, it's like I honestly did not have any like oomph or any whatever to pick up the Lord of the Rings. I mainly wanted to pick up the Lord of the Rings because everybody says it's like, the godfather of fantasy, or I don't know, however you would word that. And so I was like, well, of course I want to read it, And then I started looking into the actual author himself, and I was just so amazed by him and his life and his look at life and all of that. It was like, absolutely 100% I'm about to read his books. And I did. And so, like, and Pierce Brown just seems, I don't know, he just seems like, how they have like nerd guys, but then they have like the cute nerd guys. He just seems like, I don't know, very cool, very like, he would know every detail about a turtle if you asked him. You know what I'm saying? Like that kind of, and I'm just like amazed by his brain. What do you call that when you're like, not attracted in the sense like, oh, I want to be with him, but you're just, even in like a woman, like I feel more like I'm drawn to people that have really smart brains, and I want to follow them, and I get their book recommendations, and they just amaze me and inspire me and whatever, like that kind of like attracted. Does that make sense? Not like you want to do the Humpty Dump, but you know what I mean? Anyway, with people who are smart. And it's probably why, like, when I watch Criminal Minds, Reed is my favorite character. Who knows? Anyway, it made me want to pick them up. He has a cool vibe, and he definitely does. Him, and then maybe I have daddy issues because I don't have a dad, but when I watch John Gwynn and like the way he interacts with his sons, it makes me wish that I had a dad like that, and it makes me want to read his books as well. It's like he'll just be my step-in father. I don't know. Anyway, and then there's authors that give me the ick, and then I don't want to read their books, And so I try not to follow it's also with Brandon Sanderson. Again, not to like, he wouldn't be like, people's top sexiest men alive, but the way that his brain works and how, it just makes him more attractive, but like not in like a swoon-worthy attractive, but like makes him more, there's probably a word, and I don't know because I don't have the brain like they do. He's another example. What was I saying before I said that? I don't know. It's time for me to go though. So thank you guys so much for hanging out and watching and talking and chit-chatting, shooting shits. Remember June, which is this month that we're in right now currently. We are reading, if you want to, you don't have to, but if you want to, we're reading People Who Meet on Vacation. I don't know if Katie is going to join us for that. She hasn't responded to my message, so we'll have to see. If not, maybe I'll find somebody else to join me. We'll see, because I feel like it's more entertaining when I'm not by myself. But there's that. Thank you so much, and I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. And until next time, good night.